Well, recently we received a lot of attention about our upside down tomatoes as a result of our segment with CBS this morning. And I wanted to kind of show you how they were doing and also talk to you about some of the problems that we've heard people had who have tried it since that publicity. And of course, let me remind you that what we did was just plant the tomato in through the pot where it came out of the bottom, and the main stem is right here. And then as the plant grows, the gravity causes it to upright itself, and then we tie it up to the pot through the wires to keep it from breaking off. And this particular variety is early Cascade, and you can see we've got a lot of fruit that's coming off, so we've really got quite a bit of production. Now, there's not nearly the foliage and vining that you would think of a tomato out in the garden, and the main reason for that is because the root system becomes so restricted. And we always recommend to use 12-inch or larger diameter hanging baskets. Now, we also told you that you could plant things together, but we didn't really recommend it. And the main reason why, and this is a prime example, we put in pink Impatiens after we put the transplant in. And this particular plant was put in probably a good 6 to 8 weeks after the other hanging basket, but it really hasn't done too much. And again, if you can imagine all the roots from the plant on the top competing with the roots that are so aggressive of the tomato is losing out in this instance. Now, we've had a lot of wind problems and rain, and so it's been cooler, and that may also be the reason that the plants haven't done so well. But I can't emphasize enough that you almost have to water 2 and 3 times a day during the dry weather. And you almost have to fertilize with a liquid fertilizer or a slow release often. If you use a liquid fertilizer, sometimes we fertilize twice a week because the water runs right out and it leaches all the nutrients. So it takes a lot of time and care, but as you can see, it is possible to do. And we also recommend to start them earlier, and then if you have chance of freeze, just carry the plant inside overnight and bring it back out, and that way you'll get production before the heat sets in. Now, with this one being so stringy and it's broken here because of the wind, I'm going to come in and I'm going to top it right there, and we'll still have some suckers that will force up, but it's still not going to do much just because of the competition with the pink Impatient. Now, the next container is pink Impatiens, and they've done real well in one of our hanging baskets that has holes along the side. We've got them in partial shade where they get afternoon shade, and with the plants by themselves, you can see they've done extremely well. Again, they're not having to compete with another plant like the basket just next to it. Now, we have a lot of strange things in our hanging baskets this year, and let me show you one here that really is a grass grown in the southern part of the United States. It's Augustine Grass, and it has the big runners like kind of Bermuda grass does here in Oklahoma. Has a very thick, coarse leaf, and again, even some of the people in the southern part of Oklahoma may have some success in growing Augustine, but it's not very cold hardy, and that's why you don't see it up in the central and northern parts of the state. But it's a common grass, especially in South Texas and in Florida. But this particular one, and you can see it a little bit more at the top, is variegated, so it's got striped leaves, and we're going to bump it up in a pot a little bit larger because it's very root bound. And also I'll come in and I'm just going to trim it off all about the same height so we can force some new growth. And now these things I won't put in the compost pile or out in the lawn because they will root. Of course, I'd kill out from the winter, but we'll just probably put those in the trash or something. Or if we do put them in the compost pile, we're going to shred them up. But it's not as showy as it can be because it dries out too quickly again. But they will make nice cascading baskets, but we just need to go ahead and move it up to a larger size. And again, that's variegated Augustine grass. Now, the next hanging basket in here, if you look closely, is ivy geranium. But the neat thing about this one, it's a new series called Mini Cascade, and this particular one is Mini Cascade Red. And it's a very, very prolific bloomer all summer long. And we also have it in the UFO pots where we have plants along the side and on the top. But another nice thing about this one, where geraniums, a lot of times even ivy geraniums, need to be deadheaded a lot, these will shrivel up themselves and continually go ahead and bloom, so it doesn't require quite as much maintenance. And it's a real pretty color series and real attractive foliage. It's not quite as big a leaves as a traditional ivy geranium, but again, this one is called Mini Cascade Red. Now, one of our favorite plants here at the Studio Gardens are Lantana. And here's one that is a lavender or purple lantana that we're growing in a hanging basket. Now, this particular cultivar variety has a tendency to grow horizontal more than upright. So we use it in the gardens a lot in a bedding plant situation and in a hanging basket. But gosh, there's several different types of lantana, and I want to show you down here some that we're training into what we call tree form lantanas. Now, we have two of the larger ones here. And how we did this, these were some that were actually bedding plants out in some of our ground beds last year. And when it got close to the end of the summer where we were going to get freeze damage, we went ahead and dug up a plant, and then we actually trained it into a central leader. And the way we did that was, of course, if it's growing horizontally, we just found one and we just raised it upright, cut all of the other branches off of it, and then cut the ones along the stem and tried to force it to grow higher. Now, it will become woodier, and with years of growth and also with taking these in greenhouse during the winter, you can actually get them to be 6 feet high where they become tree lantanas. Now, this one is Dallas Red, and it's doing pretty good, and you can see our central leader got killed back. So what we'll do is bend this one up a little bit and force it to be our central leader, or we have another branch coming out here that we can also train it up. But we try to keep the bottom clean, and the one over here, I'll show you what's happening on it. It's not blooming right now because I will put on these seed pods, especially this variety called Confetti, and then as the seed pods develop, kind of have fruit. Now, they're not edible by any means, but to get it rejuvenated and to bloom on us again, we'll come in and we'll tip these out, and then it will send out a new flush of growth and bloom for us again. But I'd also encourage you to fertilize it at the time that you deadhead it. And they don't normally need deadheading that often. They will come back themselves, but you can speed up the process. And again, we'll keep the trunk clean along here and continue to force the growth up. Now, when you first buy a lantana transplant, a lot of times you'll get them where they're straight, and that would be an optimum time to go ahead and put one in a container and try to grow your own tree lantana. Again, sometimes you'll get them where they spread horizontally, and what we would do in this case is plant it, cut one of those out, and then just form it upright. And if it doesn't have a central leader, you'll eventually get a side sucker that you can force up too. Now, you need to stake them, do a lot of maintenance, but it's a nice, fun little project. And again, you can get them to be several feet high and beautiful trees, but they need to be protected because they're not cold hardy. And we have one out in one of our yellow beds of lantana. We've got lantana planted all over the Studio Gardens, and the hotter, drier the weather gets this summer, the better the lantana like it.